Traffic was horrible. But Sam, would you read the, how did I get stuck in?
You're pulling back.
I will read the statement of announcement. A news release announcing the date, time, and place of the September 20th, 2018 Policy Committee meeting was distributed September the 18th, 2018 to appropriate media and other groups or individuals who have requested notification. The announcement and agenda were posted at the Department of Disabilities and Special Needs Central Office, Administrative Office, video conference locations, and on the website. Americans with Disabilities Act. The public has been notified that accommodations such as interpreters, mobility assistance, or other assistance will be provided to individuals with disabilities and special needs if requested in advance.
Okay, thank you. Has everybody looked at the agenda?
Yes.
Any changes? Do I have a motion that it be approved?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so today we want to review the directives that were posted on the internet that we looked at last time. And basically this was to more or less undo some wording that was put in regard to legal guardian. Where are these? Which file is this one?
The first directive should be,
I think it's under the stack.
under the comments.
All these comments, some of them had to do with what was posted that we did not approve as a committee, right?
These comments all pertain to the current versions of directives.
Were these received after it was posted?
After September 6th.
After it was posted.
Yes. 4 different sources of comment.
Okay, so
through
let's.
the comment mechanism.
Okay, Susan, so the first, can you summarize the first comment about what we want to post? Which page is that on?
Well, if we're looking at 53507 DD,
Yeah.
that directive,
Yes.
the first on that packet, I want to make sure we all have the same packet. On my packet, I have the comment received from Able SC. Do you all have that? Make sure you have the right packet.
What page is that in the packet?
It looks like it's the actual email comment. I think the one you're on is actually from Kelly Eifert.
All I've got is Kelly. So the one from Kimber, one from, you're talking about this one? Miss Davis?
The way the packet is set up is comments about the specific directive are
Yes.
first, and then the directive is at the back.
Right.
So if you look towards the back and make sure you're in the packet, it's 53507. Attached to that, you should have the comments received from Able, South Carolina, and from Kelly Eifert.
We don't.
The
You don't
Able,
have
South
the
Carolina
Able.
is a separate, it's on top of, it was a separate.
It was
piece.
separate. Okay.
It's from Kimberly to Tiso.
So,
Okay,
Gotcha, thank you.
do we all have it now?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot of paperwork and coordinating the packets is a little bit tricky.
All right, so what basically is she saying her problem is?
She has concerns that the changes in the process of obtaining consent assumes, and I would just refer you to her second paragraph, second page, and I'll read that. Taken as a whole, the 5 proposed directives forward a paradigm of assuming competence and downplaying the rights of people with disabilities. It is this sort of rhetoric that is outdated, as it is dangerous to the very people DDSN is charged with serving, and then she goes on. That's sort of the sentiment throughout, I think. Some concerns about preserving individuals' rights, some concerns about the process of determining consent, some general language considerations that are not disability friendly, some of those which actually exist in statutes that we're bound to, but they did provide comment on that. Those are kind of the thematic issues. Some concern with the term client representative, which again we know is defined for us.
Okay, so let's go to the directive itself. And basically, the meat of it is going to be where we're trying to undo the legal guardian.
Well, do you want me to run through it, or do you want to?
No, because it'll take forever.
Okay.
If we look at the, we crossed out, let's see, the pages aren't numbered, which makes it difficult.
It's right up here at the top. Yeah, this is maybe the staple it. Part. It should be clear. This, like, mine says page 8. I think that might be where you are. Top left.
Yeah. South Carolina Office of the Attorney General issued an opinion that authorized DDSN to be listed as number 10 in list of those given the authority to consent for those persons with IDRD unable to consent. So, her issue's not with that. So the rest of it is just samples. So, is this what was posted? Okay.
Yes, this is the version that was posted. So there are 5 different directives, so some of the comments submitted span all 5 directives.
See, that's not helpful for the purpose of taking each one individually. Numbers 1 through 9, then an authorized designee of DDSN will serve as, and it's crossed out, the surrogate consent giver, authorized person to consent. So there was something in here though that we put. Because the first version of what the committee decided to do was, that was sent to me was not what the committee decided to do. The one that was posted that I looked at was, and basically it did not require, it did not require a legal guardian to give that consent, and I'm not finding that specific change.
I'm wondering if you're referring to some of the language we put in that came from committee that's actually in a different directive.
Well, but all we're doing in these changes today is referring to the changes in law. I don't see anything here that would.
Right, because according to the Adult Health Care Consent Act, the directive was just revised in this section. Other directives, you'll see that the client representative was placed in there, which encompasses the legal guardian. And so that language appears elsewhere because it's not really applicable to the Adult Health Care Consent Act establishment of those. I think maybe that's clarification.
This is just saying that we're number 10 because the Attorney General said we could be,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes. Then that fixes the prior version.
So,
that did not have it that
does
way.
she have a problem with us? Okay, so this directive is just saying that we're at number 10, and it gets us into the same setting that the Attorney General opinion gave to say that we're acting as number 10 because our policy doesn't say that right now. What is our policy?
Well, it was a draft prior to this.
But nobody really has said, the thing we're doing, we're pointing out law and it says it's going to be number 10 according to what the current Attorney General is. And that's all we're doing. And nobody objected to that.
Well, April sounds like they're objecting to exactly that. Well, from what I read, it sounds like they're objecting to how it's determined, what the process is of determining somebody is not competent to give consent. And it's just over that one consent for that one issue, and it would have to be done for everything else, but that's law. I don't know how our directive, I mean, that would be a good comment to make to the people who are making the decision.
I mean, I think this one clearly is going by what the statute says, and the statute tells you how you make that determination with 2 physicians. I think some of the other ones is where the issues are about assuming basically that people with intellectual disabilities cannot make decisions.
Is it in this one that it says there are 2 healthcare professionals can decide?
Yes, that's what the statute clearly says,
The
right.
one that and that's the thing she's objecting
I'm
to.
thinking that's what I'm thinking that we're making the assumption that the person can't consent. Unfortunately, we don't make that assumption. It's usually the physician who
Right.
makes that
Yeah,
assumption.
the
It's
physician
not,
has to, yeah.
you know, it's not like we walk in and have everybody sign blank things, but you know, that
realizing
people
that-
do not get treated if you know, if the physician does not think that somebody, and I don't know how you can control that. And then this gives them a mechanism to document it. They have to have two physicians, it's not just the one person, it's another
Well,
one.
the whole thing started with us trying to put ourselves in at number 3 and all that. So, you know, now all we're trying to do is get consistent with the legal opinion that has been provided to us since we, for the last 2 years, have failed to correct the law. And it was left out, not by us, but by the staff of probably Phyllis Henderson. And so now, you know, then we went back and instead of fixing it, we decided to make it number 3. That was another mistake. And so now we got an Attorney General's ruling saying that we're number 10, and our policies need to say the same thing as the law. So then when the law is changed, and hopefully the legislative committee will be involved in that wording to make sure we get it right, but then we may have to look at it again. But this is just an attempt to get ourselves consistent with current law and the current Attorney General opinion. So committee members, do y'all have anything?
Can I just say one thing? There was a comment about attaching the Attorney General's opinion to the back of it, which I think is an excellent comment, because there was a previous comment, it didn't come through the line, it kind of came through back channels, that said, well, the law's not right yet, so technically you're writing a policy based on a opinion. Yeah, we are, but let's put the opinion here so folks can reference it.
Okay.
I have no heartburn about changing it to that opinion, but I like that was
It says the
Kelly's
same
good
thing.
idea.
We don't need to
Yes.
put everything in that opinion in this thing. Now I want to recognize the committee members. Lori?
I'm still reading Able, South Carolina's comments. I mean, I don't have any objection. I mean, we should make the policy reflect
The law.
the law. That's right. So obviously I have no objection to that. But have we done anything to address any of these comments or these comments from,
Not at this point.
but that's what we're going to be doing? I mean,
Well, what we're going to do, hopefully, is the legislative committee will consider those when you bring forth the wording we want in the change to the law. Because the law doesn't put us at number 10. The law gives us authority at number 3. And the Attorney General's made this happen until the law could be changed.
Okay.
They say because of some other statute that exists, which was written originally for DSS, that we have a law at number 3. But I don't want anybody to be confused about, as a provider, that you need to act at number 10, period. Don't be trying to.
right.
Try
That makes sense.
No, the other issues go to some of the other ones.
The other directives?
Yes.
Or other language in that direction.
Right, so Able, South Carolina's comments are to a bunch of different directives.
And this
But
one.
Kelly Eifert, and this one,
Yeah.
that's right, but Kelly Eifert's are to this one
No,
specifically.
she's got some for everyone.
Oh, okay,
5 separate entries, one for each directive.
got it.
I think you
So
have
the-
your hand in this.
So have we addressed these issues?
No,
And
we
when
got
are we
those
going to do
yesterday
that?
in an
Okay.
email.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that
Another
we don't.
problem. But no, we haven't. We're gonna have to count on Susan now to summarize what their concerns are about these. Or we can actually not do anything today and have an opportunity to read all these, which I think is the intent in some, doing it this way by some.
That would make me more comfortable, because I would like to not approve something than to just have to go back and,
Well, and that brings up another point. We're gonna have to do it again after the law changes again anyway. I mean, you know, because hopefully we'll get that fixed right this time in this next session.
right.
And we're gonna have to do it again at that point also. But it doesn't look like she's objecting to us being number 10.
No, I mean, this doesn't, based on what I've read so far, that doesn't seem to be substantive, or at least not as to the number 10 placement. But there are a number of cleanup items in here that are,
Yeah, it looks like Kelly is you're very good at English. I see a lot of corrections. And then at the bottom, using supported decision-making, which again, a lot of ABLE stuff is more of a paradigm, to document the paradigm shift to the individuals doing more. But then again, that's a paradigm shift. And we probably should address some of those issues in the person-centered planning mechanism that we can use supported decision-making, because we need to introduce the idea to everyone, including families. I mean, this is a new concept, and this is about the law. So I believe that they can be addressed, those comments, but maybe, and including Abel's comments. Because if we're trying to shift a paradigm, you just can't do it in a policy only. It has to be across the board. So we're working on person-centered planning. That involves families and involves everybody. To start introducing the paradigm of shared decision-making, that's a good place to start. We have to
Let me ask you
write
this.
something for the law.
How many providers know about the Attorney General's opinion?
It was sent out.
How many think do we know how many think that they're at number 10 versus number 3?
Most folks that I talk to do. I don't talk.
We think most folks do.
Well, I talked, before I got here a couple weeks, so the people that I was talking to prior to I got here, they understood they were number 10.
But I still think that our directives need to try to reflect the latest legal opinion that we have.
Yeah.
So we can, we're going to have to revisit it anyway.
Well, I agree the directive should reflect the latest. I do agree with that.
We may not get be able to do it again before, who knows when they'll get through it. Maybe June next year. The problems that we've had in the past have resulted from unclear directives that just are just ambiguous, and we're not clear about what we expect from providers. And then they go, show me the directive that says that, and we don't have it.
I'm just wondering if we can, I'm just thinking about these policy meetings generally. We've got a lot on our plates for each meeting
We
for
really
an hour.
do, yeah.
And if the comments weren't due until yesterday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Haven't turned ours in yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can we act on this if we haven't
You're
had
not
time to
going to-
process the comments yet?
We wouldn't be able to this time, we'd have to do it next time.
Okay.
But if y'all want to not act on anything, then we're just gonna go along. In that case, we could go along, just letting it be kind of ambiguous for a while, which we've done for a while now anyway, because it hadn't been created, like I said, in 2 years. So I don't really have a problem with reviewing all the comments. But the way they're presented and, we've got to work on that.
I'm wondering maybe if we could use these policy committee meetings to read through and discuss all the comments and then even vote by email in between meetings, maybe?
Or, I don't know if we can vote by email. I think we'd have to have a FOIA
Yeah, you have to have a
announcement,
notice,
and we
yeah.
have to we did do a Skype though, we could do that. One thing, what we could do is, Mary wanted to discuss the process, and the last time we did that, it was a 3-page thing, and it took me an hour and a half to read it.
Because I'm more thinking of the Skyping part for the discussing. To sit down and read and discuss and have that, read the comments and kind of process them. This is a lot to process. And you don't have an hour to process this.
And we don't have all the comments, if they're due
Right,
tomorrow.
no, it's due tomorrow. So, like, within the next 2 weeks, you set up, when I was talking process, this is what I was thinking, if you would set up a Skype meeting to sit down and kind of hammer through what the comments were, and tease out the ones that are just like, we need comments here, we need to change this word here, versus how do we handle the comments,
Right.
they're not,
Well, in the first place.
and then go to a vote. on the
Whoever's
next meeting.
comments are submitted, the comments pertaining to the directive we're looking at need to be separated. And we need to look at the comments
Yeah.
that pertain to this directive. Otherwise, we're gonna just flow over into every directive we're looking at or could be looking at. But if we could look at the process, I don't have a problem with that, and maybe that's where we should start. I was thinking, when the last time we looked at a process, and Pat made one up, and it was 3 pages long, I got so lost in it that it looked like it was gonna take us a while to get it done. But it was just too much detail. I don't know that we need to get so caught up in the how the directives are carried out as much as what's in them, but how we look at it. But in this case, we haven't really looked at anything. So we can take a few minutes and just kind of, if Susan will summarize the comments, but then we need to move on about, some of these other issues, just so you'll be aware of some of the things that we are going to have to look at that are you know, and how people are gonna, tell us what it is they think the priorities are about what we're gonna look at. So there needs to be a way for people to sign up on the internet to be notified when we're about to change a policy,
Okay.
you know, and then like an advocate list or whatever. And then there needs to be a place for them to go on there and comment, and then we need to be able to see all those comments. And we don't need all those comments all at one time. I mean, you can set us up an account for us when we get ready to. We can go in and review the comments. We did that before with something, but I don't remember what it was. I think it was the search committee.
So you're asking for for folks to be able to address the committee with comments?
I think if you're an advocate and you want to comment, then you need to stick to the directive that we're going to be looking at.
Okay.
You know, and so whoever's submitting these 10-page letters on 5 different directives, I don't want to go through all that. I want them to submit that comment on that directive. Or somebody to separate it out after they conflate all the issues as whoever did this did.
There's a current mechanism where the directive is listed in the
Yeah.
comment button, and it does pertain, and that's kind of the model that just because Kelly's are here and Kelly are here.
And that worked.
It is specific and it is by stack, so it is just that one. There were just the other 3 that we received were global. They
Yeah,
didn't go
and
through
those-
the page by page analysis the same
But-
way that other
Yeah,
one
but
did.
that does tend to conflate the issues, so somebody's going to have to separate that out. But
Yes,
But
we would do that at the end of the period, for sure.
Again, you're looking at tons of information. If you take one directive, that's one thing. But here you've got a slew of them that need to get done.
I mean, this would take all day, and I wouldn't object to that. If we want to have an all-day meeting
Work
sometime and
session,
try to
yeah.
get, find a work session.
well, that
Try
would
to
just be the
find-
tip of the iceberg, though.
I know.
So we would have a bunch of work sessions, and we got to figure out a way to streamline this, and because we're now in the directive business, because so many things have been unclear and so many things have been assumed that this is a direction we want the commission to go in when it is not. So as far as these policies here, let's just collect all the comments and set up an account and give us 30 days to review all the comments. Would that be enough time? And then we will get together, and if we have to do them one at a time for however long it takes.
I'd
you know.
love to do it one at a time.
Yeah, but we don't have the luxury. I don't think we're going to be able to do one at a time.
Well, comments close tomorrow. That's been published, so we can get all those comments out to you. One
And then again,
email, one
And this
directive,
isn't-
one comment.
this is an easy one compared to the rest of them, except the fact that this one, this particular one is a result of our mistakes, and I have seen us do it. I saw us do it with HUD housing. I've seen us do it with other directives and training programs that make people do the wrong thing, and then we end up telling them, you're going to have to pay, by the way, $1.8 million back because you overcharged consumers, and then we're the ones that train them to do it that way. So, I mean, you know, the reason I am the way I am about these directives is that we got to get in front of that. It's got to stop, and we don't need somebody saying, well, no, you said we were number 3, because we don't have a clear directive saying what the Attorney General's opinion is. And that's my only angst about kicking the can down the road. But I don't mind doing it, but we're going to have to realize that when we do it, we are at risk of somebody not doing the right thing, and it being our fault because we're not clear about what we're saying that they need to do. So we're going to get a lot of opinions about all this, you know, but we have made mistake after mistake after mistake, and a lot of it goes right back to the directives. So I'm going to try to think of a way for us to streamline these comments and pull out the ones that are that make the most sense for what we can do. And I think Mary is going to have to be the one to make those recommendations to us ultimately. She's going to have to say, this person commented this, and this is why, this is how I think this should be weighed. This person commented this way, this is how, and make a recommendation to us on the directives, because we're going to be in a full-time job if we try to do that ourselves. If my policy committee chair said, if I said to my policy committee chair, I want you to go through the policy manual and pick out the ones you think we need to change next, they'd say, I'm not doing that. You know, get out of here. You know, so we are gonna have to function on the recommendation. I'm willing to do that on the recommendation of Mary, not anybody else, because there've been too many problems. So, let's just, do y'all want to
Can I,
punt? Yeah.
can I ask a question of Kelly? I'm just wondering, like, of all these comments, I mean, yours are very specific, and that's very much appreciated, and a lot of them seem to be like grammatical things or whatnot. And if they're that type of comment, it seems to me that staff can go back and fix those grammatical errors, and that's easy. Can you kind of walk us through whether some of these are not simple things that we could just ask staff to fix?
Sure. Do you want to start with those 7?
Is that okay?
I don't know if we have time to cover everything we need to do with her walking us through that today. Unless you want to take 5 minutes and talk about one of them, or do you want to talk about all of your comments, you know what I'm saying?
There's a
I
lot
meant
that's-
just on 07.
Yeah, I mean.
Just on 07, yeah. go
Sure,
ahead.
just on 07.
We can try it, but her comments really,
Scan to see.
or hers are.
Hers are very specific.
Specific.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all.
So, for example, on page 4 of the directive with the changes as inserted, it talks about a person being unable to consent. And this is referenced in a lot of different ones. What is not provided or given here is if a person's unable to consent, what are we basing that on? Is it just the fact that they don't use words to communicate? And if so, I'd like to see inserted specific information or language about making sure a person who doesn't use words to communicate is given the appropriate either augmentative or alternative communication device and with the appropriate guidance and assistance so that they are able to then communicate their information and their needs and desires, whatever that looks like.
And is that sort of the same reasonable accommodation comment that
I would say reasonable
able?
accommodations.
Absolutely, it would be a reasonable accommodation.
But
Again, in
Can
this,
you add that to something that's written in
yeah, it's in statute. This is what the doctors do.
But some of that is in some of y'all, like the physician certification, and,
That's what the doctors do.
yeah, but you've got some more detail about how that
Right, so, but I
happened
mean,
in
you
the
know,
attachments.
But then we would be putting the requirements on the doctors, what I'm saying, because it's the 2 healthcare providers that make the determination that the person's unable to consent.
Right.
So I don't think you can say, okay, you know, dentist or, you know, orthopedist, you have to say that.
Kelly.
So I was going to say, so then I think, okay, so even though it's a directive, so if we're not going to put the requirement on the doctor, so I would think they would be beholden to ADA, which would
Yeah.
indicate reasonable accommodation. Then certainly I would want to make sure that any person in their circle of support or any information done prior, because most people pretty much know if they're going to go to the doctor. I mean, obviously there's always emergency events or emergent events, but when someone's sitting down and planning with their case manager, planning with their family, planning with people who support them, these are the times that we create a supported decision-making method where they designate people to help them make decisions about certain issues. That's the time when we can talk about it, you know, in advance, when it's not in the middle of the crisis or not in the middle of decision-making, you know, getting some of that information done, and then making sure that they have those things in front of them and available to them to be able to communicate their choices and their decisions that they want to have when it comes to their health care.
Okay, look at healthcare consent instructions as an attachment of this thing. Because one of the things about what we have to decide as a policy committee is, I think these things should be divided between what is policy and what is procedure. And the procedure needs to be worked out by staff, and they can take input from what Kelly's saying and everybody else. We just want to make sure the law is met. How we go about doing that is more of a procedure than it is a policy. So as we go through these policies, I'm not interested in, I mean, I don't think it's the role of the commission to set the procedure and where the physician sits down and when the case manager's involved and all that. I just think we need to say we're at number 10. You know, as a board, how they go about carrying these out I just don't think that's our deal. So some of these things we've got to separate out eventually, we won't be able to do it quickly, but eventually, what is the will of the commission? We're going to make a recommendation to the commission on this policy. To me, is going to be that our policy is we're at number 10. Now, how the staff, Mary and her staff go about addressing what needs to be done with physicians and case managers and all that, do we want to get involved at that level? How to carry this out? I don't think we do.
Vicki, I just have one comment too, and this goes back to Kelly, your comment. We have to remember too that this policy applies to those who are in residential settings. So this is not a directive that applies to the 87% of folks who live at home with their family and who live in their own homes. We're talking about folks who are in residential settings regarding obtaining health care benefits. So what would happen at home, and I understand personal standpoint, I understand what you're saying, but I also understand this directive is geared for those that are in residential settings. So just to
Yeah, and that's a good point. But when I don't even want all these attachments to be in here. I mean, to me, Lori, we're not going to ever change anything if we get involved in all these attachments and how they go about doing it. You know, we did have 5 policies as a commission, you know. That's laughable. But now we want to look at the policies, but we need to look at the broad policies and our strategic direction as a commission, not the forms they're going to use and fill out, not the...
I agree with you as a matter of philosophically, I agree with
Right.
you. Look at the beginning of this directive, though. It says this directive establishes procedures.
Yeah, we need to change that.
I mean,
that's the purpose of the
technically, you could
directive.
probably write in the directive, we follow the Healthcare Consent Act.
Well, and I
And the
wonder
rest
how-
of it would be procedure,
Well,
how
we-
you do that. How
but-
is your philosophy of having that person-centered plan to fully develop their circle of supports and, you know, make some decisions and bring in, what we don't do is we don't talk to their physicians.
Well, one of the
And
things we need
say,
to do
these
is
folks
just,
make a decision as a team.
we need
you
to
know.
change that to this directive establishes policy. And the reason this directive is so different from everything else is because it's screwed up. I mean, the law, we're going on one attorney's opinion of what he thinks the law says in regard to number 10, and that's the Attorney General, and we're hanging on to it for dear life because the law says we have authority under number 3. Now that implants confusion. Number 3 says that it's
By another statutory provision,
Which is
statutory provision gave us number 8.
right, but there's confusion because that's written in number 3. And statutory provision, there is no 8.
There is his grandparents. That's what my argument was, but they said put it, because
Well,
8
what if
was
you don't
under
have
the
a grandparent?
original.
But we're not having that argument today.
Right.
We've already done that a number of times. And what I'm saying is, we just need to get ourselves right with the law and establish some strategic direction, but I don't want to get into a debate about how the law says 2 physicians determine. Now, under what circumstances, y'all have got a really good explanation here under these instructions you've written. This is good. I mean, it's pretty detailed about, well, what if it's temporary and they can't temporary decide, and what is not able, and look at this definition. And I mean, I think that's pretty clear, but I don't think it's something we need to be involved in at this point or at any point later. So maybe we need to start where you suggested with the guideline, because I thought we could work our way towards that, but I don't think we're going to be able to. If we can separate out procedure and get us out of the detail, but give us a say before it's changed by an outside agency or an outside entity or anything else. Go off in that direction about writing directives about final rules that we haven't agreed as a commission, we're ready to comply with. And when I'm talking about HHS and submitting things to them, I'm talking about waiver plans, things like that really set the strategic direction, and I don't think the commission should be circumventing that either. So we need to know what that direction is and be in agreement with it. I'm not talking about, however, plans of correction for counties and Medicaid reimbursement, that kind of thing. We don't need to see all that. So for today, we're gonna drop back and punt on these four. Where's our little agenda here? Can we drop back and punt? I know we're taking a little bit of longer of a risk.
And, you know, I'm sorry, because I know you're doing such a good job trying to move us along and get our policies updated, but.
No, this
I
is
do
good
feel like we
because
need
it
to-
lets us know, we need to establish what we're gonna look at. And I don't know how to do that without trying to sample, you know?
Right, right.
Because I haven't read all these yet.
Well, and this is kind of a process. I mean, all the stuff with the final rules, CQL, all the language that Abel's talking about, it's like no one's against it, but it's a process. And you can't sometimes always get the perfect get in the way of the good. And at some point, we need folks to have tools out there to actually make sure someone gets health care. You know, and I think that is where providers are sitting, because this is what I bring to the hospital. If there's no family, and we do have someone who's unable to consent, and they're in crisis, and we have to act.
But
and,
my concern
you
is,
know,
in
leaving people out there to
my
hang.
concern in trying to get through as many as we can, is that we have so many that are skewed from what we've ever said we're willing to do. And there's just a pile of them, you know. But we're gonna have to separate out direction and policy from procedure and how. And we might as well do that as we go, because I don't think that's our intent. And I don't think we're capable of doing that. I don't care how many workshops we have, you know. I mean, that's kind of,
Well,
I don't wanna
frankly,
have a
I
lot
think
of
it would be
workshops.
easier if we did that. It's difficult, don't get me wrong.
It
It's a
is
very
difficult.
multi-year practice. But as we move down the paradigm shift, which I don't really think is much of a paradigm shift, I think a lot of people are already there, but not everybody's there. So there is a lot of educational components to this. And just writing down comments saying you should do this and you should do that, if you don't go about it correctly, you're going to alienate the very people you want to go with you on this journey.
well, right.
Families and
Because that's what's-
physicians and,
That's what's
you know,
happened.
and I really am concerned about that. I don't want to do that. I want to bring people, I've said it 100 times, I want to bring people along, everybody along for this ride. But if you stand up in front of a group and say, parents, I'm going to make you do what I want you to do, and I'm going to give you some tough love, you are insulting the people who are taking care of their loved ones, and that is never a good road to go down.
No.
No matter how good your intentions are.
All right, so
But we
let's
need
look,
to get there.
let's look at number
Together.
4. Standards and licensing impacted by the final rule. There were 4 standards. We had a big discussion about the fence. That was apparently submitted in the CMS plan. As
It's
part
one
of
their-
it.
It's one of their, one of CMS's requirements. It's
Okay.
not something that Kelly dreamed up. It's in that final rule.
Well, but the thing about it is that the reason there was pushback is because there are a lot of people that need fences
Oh, I know.
around their houses. So, and we never got a say in that as a commission. You know, the governing body by state law, we never got a say in any of that. So when we talk about final rule and all the things that we want to change in it, like those 4 things that were changed, I think that we need to look at that strategic direction, and we need to back off of that until we know more about what is actually going to transpire, and not just anticipate that that's what it's going to be in 2022? Okay, so in the meantime, we don't need people out there taking down their fences or selling a bunch of real
They're
estate.
not. And we did put
Well-
that in, well, I know. It's
Excuse me.
nerve-wracking because it's written. it's
Well,
the way it's written.
and when you require somebody to do a plan of correction because there's a fence around a house, that's asinine. So, you know, I want us to look at those. And then proposed policies and directive standards to be reviewed. Is there a place on the internet for people to go on there and say, I'd like you to look at this one because? And then we take all those and prioritize them. Is there a way to do that?
Not specifically discussing that option and listing a way for them to do it, we can add that.
We can add it.
We did, as you were talking about in the last committee meeting, have a place where folks could request to be informed of any changes, and we could just modify that language and say there are a few things if you'd like to be notified of or make recommendations, it's there. But there's a button for that now. The other means for communicating about directives pertain to specific directives.
Okay, so
24 hours a day directives can be commented on,
While
so
you're-
that's there, but it's a little different.
while you're on that internet site, there are some things on there that are, of course, the one that was not up to date was the executive ends policy that we passed last fall, and so for a year it was on there as the one, as if we didn't pass it, because somebody wanted it up and threw it in the trash evidently. But some of these little policy things, like this one here, is a South Carolina Disabilities and Special Needs Commission public input, and it's under commission policies, and it says, like one thing it says, pursuant to the procedure adopted by the commission, that must be in the minutes somewhere, that I don't know, individuals with legal action pending against SCDDSN may not speak, people will speak 5 minutes, each speaker will be allowed 7 minutes. There's no, it's not a signed policy, it's presented under the commission as a commission policy, unsigned. And there are some others on there that, I think we looked at the bylaws last in 2007. I just want everybody to take a look at what's written as a commission policy and make sure we got the right policy, that it's dated and signed and passed by the commission. And if it's not, take it off of there, because it's not a commission policy, it's never been passed.
So are you
and
saying
signed
you would
off.
like this in a formal policy?
If it's listed on the internet as a commission policy, then it needs to be a commission policy. If it's not, it doesn't need to be on there.
All right.
It was adopted by the commission.
Well, it's not a written
Is that an
policy.
excerpt from the existing
Yes.
policy?
No, it was
that
adopted
is-
through the minutes of
Okay,
the
so
commission.
we probably need
As
to-
a policy?
Well, it should probably be signed and dated.
Oh, okay,
I
well,
would
then-
think, yeah.
Well, I don't know. We'll look.
Do you want to just, is this the agenda item, do you want to just say what you do to it?
We've got 10 more minutes, so,
Basically, when we.
you wanna look at,
I just want to
final
tell
rule
you,
thing?
yeah, I just want to tell
Yeah.
you what we do.
Yeah.
On this final rule, since we are, and Vicki, the ideas of the fences and the walls and all that stuff, I know it is, and proximity, it is in the CMS actual final rule, and we had to submit a plan, and they did. But as far as our homes go, we're working on our CAP plans, and we're working with our providers to mitigate the issues as to why. I have fence in York. Well, not me. Michelle has a fence in York. I'm sorry. It's very hard to let go. Sorry, Michelle. But there's a house on Highway 55, and I know that Maxabilities has no intention of taking that fence down. They they reverse engineered the actual gate to stay open, and then paid a lot of money to do that. That I know. And then the staff has a fob if there's an emergency and someone's running for the road to slow the progress down, not that they couldn't get over that fence if they wanted to. That's when the gates close, but they're open all the time. So there would be a reason why we'd be looking at somebody's plan that this is a dangerous situation. And that is what, when we talk about mitigation for these things, that's what we're going to be working with providers on. So we're hoping that by having these work groups that start at the end of the month, that we're going to lower that, kind of fear factor down as we start to talk about again, these are like reasonable accommodations. You do have to take care of health, safety, and accountability. It is what it is. And so that, and proximity, talking about how the houses are not one unit, which would be institutional,
Okay, so-
but they are different. So we took out, we're not going to, they're in the standard, but it clearly says in there, not June 30th, 2019, which is after the plans are all due, so somebody will be making their corrections. We will not be measuring these things. So nobody should get a report or a recommendation or anything like that.
Or be required to do a plan,
No,
mediation
no.
plan. All right, so are you putting not applicable?
Yes.
Okay. I can live with that.
Okay. All right, that's really what we've done. It's just to
So-
lower it down, because you can't really expect people to write a plan of correction, which they really weren't, but they're getting nervous about it. When,
So the
we haven't even done the CAP plans yet.
So the policy committee has to approve any changes to the standards. And what the change that we're asking the policy committee to approve today is that we're making those 4 standards that were put in, that have to do with final rule, and in particular asking people to do plans of correction, and then they backed off that and said, no, you gotta do a mediation plan, and I can figure out what the difference in that is. but, you know, we're gonna put not applicable without taking it out because it was submitted to CMS, I guess.
Well, our standards weren't submitted to CMS for this, was it, or was it?
CMS required that we look at everything down, top to bottom, for whatever agency manages anything to do with anything waiver delivered, and so y'all's directives and everything are included.
Okay.
So any of the changes that we needed to make in there are included as part of our statewide transition plan, and so, and they have to have links to everything, so they have access, of course, to everything that's on the website, and so they did. And
this document summarizes all of those that are
Yes.
referred to in the state transition plan.
Yes.
This portion of the residential licensing standards with the language about the 7 standards would not be applicable until July 1st, 2019, because DHHS in our state requires full compliance by June 30th, 2019. That specific language would just need to be changed in the
Do we have that
current
in our?
standards. You have this in your packet.
Yeah, it's right there, we can write on it.
Okay.
But that's what it sounds like you would ask for approval of the commission, and then we would process
Oh,
it
see, not
accordingly on the
applicable.
backside.
It says
It
will
says
not
not
be
be
applicable.
These 7 standards will not be applicable. They're in there, but they're not applicable.
Right.
Okay,
And-
what is written beside them when you go through the standards? I mean, like, okay, like if you're flipping down through here and it's got 2.12, what's out beside it?
It's gonna have,
This is what it looks like
Okay.
in the standards. The note is where it refers to the dates and the applicability. It's at the front, but then this is what
The
it looks
guidance?
like in the standards.
so it would
It's
be,
just guidance.
it would be in the guidance. And we could put it at the top of the guidance so people can see this is not what I'm gonna do. Then, but the big thing is talking to a lion, tell them you're not doing this right now. That's where it needs to,
We can
it
do
could
that.
be in here, and it has been in here, and they're still asking for this
Well,
stuff.
can
so.
they just be here and not be written throughout all this other?
Yeah, we could, well, that's what, well,
Numbers.
it doesn't look like that. It looks like this, so it's gonna be written in the guidance.
Y'all attend? We will be on time.
Okay. It needs to be in the guidance, so it'll be at the top of the guidance. So this is how she just gave you a summary, and then the guidance, will say guidance on it. It'll talk about this, and then it'll have that on there. It'll have whatever needs to be next to it. That's what it,
Okay, I think what we're gonna have to have is a finished product that,
Okay.
of what the providers are gonna look at. And then, until then, you just need to tell them that you
well, we've already discussed what that would be. I don't want to see the recommendation, I don't want to see anything.
Right, but you need to make sure that if you're gonna change anything about them, that the policy committee makes a recommendation to the commission, and the commission decides we're gonna do them because that's what we decided doing the policy guidelines.
Now, if someone's building a new building today, we're looking at that stuff, because we're not gonna license it. We're not gonna license a building, we're gonna have to mitigate, in a couple months. So anything new is not gonna have the fence, unless, again, I'm sorry, but if we have a safety issue, they need it. Yeah, then we can, that's something that,
And I have concerns because that's stifling development. It's stifling new development. I mean, I know it's CMS, not us, but
Well, it isn't CMS yet. I mean, and I'm not even sure it is CMS, because there's some question about whether that was meant for residential facilities versus commercial, like day programs and things like that. So,
they're saying any facility.
Anywhere where a
waiver
person
services.
lives or resides or have services must be home-like and in the community and not be set apart or made to look any different.
It's typical as possible.
Yes. Right, no, they're not saying fences in and of themselves are bad, but that they look like any other fence that would be found in the
That's right,
neighborhood.
they can't.
That match, I mean, I have fence.
We can mitigate all our fences.
So
Not a
fences not in and of themselves are bad. So what do they look like?
Yeah.
And what do they make the setting
I
look
mean, if
like?
you got a 10-foot wall with razor wire on the top, it's
Yeah.
not really what
Right.
most people have in
okay,
their
so
yard.
for the next meeting then, what we want to do
yeah,
is.
it does. Free from
For the next meeting, we want the
So-
draft of the final product and how
You've
you
already
build
communicated
it.
that to the
That'll
bank.
work, we can
And
do
then
that.
we'll make a recommendation to the commission about, just basically to catch up about what we're doing. In the meantime, don't make anybody do a mediation plan on a fence. So,
Currently
is
not
this
required to do that.
excerpt from?
I'm sorry, that's just out of order, but that is the whole set of residential licensing standards.
This
That
is the residential licensing standards.
Yes.
Which,
Yes.
the other set of, it was the indicators, which was the quality, management type of things. They look at charts and, because this is more physical plan. So any physical plan impact from the CMS final rule would be in licensing, whereas when you're talking about person-centered planning and all that, that would be in our quality indicators.
So we're gonna have our next meeting probably, if y'all can, in November. October is not gonna be good for me, and then at our next meeting, we may have to discuss the whole time on process, but I'd at least like to get these standards updated at the next meeting. So whatever we need to do to make that happen, maybe fix them and send them out to us so we'll have a chance to look them over. We could do it on the phone if we needed to, because we won't be able to meet in October. But get that piece done, and then we'll start on, if you could figure out a way to separate out as we go through these policies, the difference between a policy and a procedure.
Well, I'm sending Kelly to everybody and have them teach them how to send in comment, because it's very specific, and it's really good. But the ABLE one, we're gonna have to ask them to kind of.
And I am
tease
sorry
out.
about the workload on this. It's so totally has to do with the fact that there've been so much going on for so long that has been wrong.
Right, no, I
There's
get
been
it.
work to do to undo it.
I mean,
So
it's the hand you were dealt, and I'm trying to deal with it.
One more thing.
quickly.
Okay, we are looking very closely at reviewing all the policies and procedures and see which ones are antiquated and which ones could be combined. I would love to do that first before I decide before we sit there and start pulling procedures and policies apart, because it's going to be, I don't want to do it on 180 if I can do it on 120.
Well, I think we've already decided that adult health care is
Yeah, we'll
connected
work on that.
anywhere in those other policies that do not give families the same rights as legal guardians or providers.
Okay.
Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.